Let's take a trip back to the early 90s, okay? We got Justice League America 82 here. And I can never remember if this is actually the same series that's Justice League Europe and also Justice League International or whatever, and who cares, right? Who cares? First thing, there's actually truth in advertising. Guy Gardner does indeed laser somebody with his ring. Yeah, I'm on board with that. So we open up to, here in issue 82, kind of a recap, and I guess this is what happened in the previous issue, just in case you're like me and you haven't read it. Aliens show up, and they're like, yo, we want two criminals back, bro. Captain Atom is kind of sent to get the criminals. Wonder Woman is like, look, we have to have like an extradition process. We can't just hand people over to aliens whenever they demand them. And that sets up the conflict. You got Captain Atom, and he's got a couple of dudes with him, and they want to get the people and hand them over to the aliens. You've got Wonder Woman. She wants the people to be put on trial, for an extradition hearing before they get sent off to the aliens. And you got the aliens who just want the people. All right. So here's Captain Adam's buddies. You can see the aliens like fire warning shot, keep them away from our ship, and the warning shot goes south, and that causes some tension and stuff. But the real meat of the book, like where things get really juicy, is one of the dudes, one of the alien criminal guys, who I don't know that we're supposed to know are criminals yet. So I'm calling them criminals. That's not really revealed until this scene with the tragedy, when this dude is about to do some bad things to fire. Like, wow. So much for being a book aimed at kids. Like, we're just going from aliens want to extradite some people to homeboy here was about to, get his jollies off on an unwilling companion. Like, I don't want to say the R word here on YouTube because that'll immediately, like, kick me down the monetization ladder. Look, I make like 2 pennies a video, okay? Like, it doesn't matter. But this is like kind of some heavy stuff. And comic books have been dealing with heavy stuff all through the 80s. It was one of the ways that you as a kid could get exposed to more, how do I want to put it? More adult, grown up concepts, but in a safe way. It was like mildly transgressive, but not very much so that you could kind of age yourself up with what you were reading. Books don't do that anymore. Books are either like, yo, here's teddy bears and stuff, or they're like, and then the Sentry ripped Ares in half, and his entrails are all over the comic book page. Like, that's where we're at today. Is we've got like this extreme and this extreme, and there's very little kind of in the middle, which is where a lot of comic books in the 80s and the early 90s were. They were solidly in that middle, where if you were like 12 or something or 14, like there was still something here you could get into without going off to like the extreme. I mean, granted, this is a mainstream comic book title. It's not like you're reading The Crow or something where there's some like real heavy duty stuff going on. Let's just put it that way. This ain't Preacher, but there was still like a little bit of juice there. And so these dudes escape. Justice League chases after them. We get a confrontation and stuff, and then Guy Gardner, as we get towards the end of that, man, there's this like weird side with ice that I don't really get and I don't think I care about, but we set up like a conference. We get a confrontation, and that's the part where, well, Guy Gardner flips out, and it's really great. I found this a great read. I absolutely, what was I even saying there? I absolutely did. This was fun. This was fun. Sure, from one perspective, you can kind of go, well, isn't this just one of those like heroes versus heroes kind of things? And yeah, you're kind of right. But it doesn't really feel like that because you've got one hero who represents like the government's interests, and you got a bunch of other heroes that are trying to represent fairness, freedom, and those concepts. If anything, I guess this is kind of like an early predecessor to like the Marvel Civil War stuff that came about 20 years later. Because what, Civil War was like 2008, something like that. That sounds about right. It's a good book. This actually makes me want to read the next issue, and fortunately enough, I got it right here. So I'm going to do that. Like, as soon as I get done talking here, I'm going to get that book out. I'm going to read that son of a gun. You all take care of yourselves. You have a great one, and bye-bye. And dig through old comics. There's some real fun stuff in them. Like, at the time, this was probably just kind of like an okay book. But compared to a lot of stuff that I see on the shelves, this was just fun. Like, there's no other way to put it. It was just fun.